everybody. Good evening.
And you are live. Genevieve, you're muted.
Thanks, Josie. Welcome everybody to our meeting tonight for the Arts and Public Places Commission for the City of Annapolis. We are beginning at 7:03 p.m. Joe, may we have a roll call, please, of attendees?
Genevieve,
Here.
David,
Here.
Joe here, Jim,
Here.
Barbara. I can't see. Yes. Carissa,
Here.
Cynthia,
Here.
and Lynn.
Here. Sorry.
It's okay.
Next, we have approval of the October 25th agenda.
May I raise a point of order about the agenda? I don't want to make an argument. I just wanted to make a point. It shouldn't be called old business. It should be called unfinished business. That makes it much clearer.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Do we have any questions or concerns about the proposed agenda for tonight?
Yes. Go ahead, Joe, if you wanted to speak.
I do need to make an amendment, which is to remove the item of new business with David Stanberry. So I think I need to make a motion to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I would make a motion to delete the new business item related to the speaker, David Stanberry.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Motion passes.
Do we have approval of the agenda as it stands, omitting David Stansberry from presenting?
I have a question.
Yes, Cynthia?
Okay, Lori Stout sent in a very nice presentation. Are we going to be able to view that?
Yes, as you were informed by email, that happens in old business.
Okay, so the presentation that she sent, even though she's not going to be sharing her screen, you're going to be able to pull it up when she gives her presentation. Is that correct?
It was sent to everybody by email.
Well,
And she's more than welcome to share her screen and share it herself.
Well, my question is this: if you know she's not at a place where she has pulled up her presentation to share her screen, are you able to do that for her?
Yes, somebody can share it.
Okay, so it was a very nice presentation, by the way, Lori. And once again, thank you for your attendance. And once again, if we have items on the agenda that are taking time of a presenter, it's helpful for the public and for the commission to have that itemized. So I'm requesting in future to have our presentations itemized, even though it may be old business, because we have several new members who are not familiar with the Annapolis Middle School project that it's a long-standing project, but a lot of folks are not aware of it. It's a SOFO, South Forest Drive Community.
Okay, Cynthia, we can talk about
Project.
it when she presents. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Lynn.
Second.
Next, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm not opposed. I just would like it to be formatted, and I think Cynthia has a very good
Okay.
point.
Thank you, Jim. All right, so can we have a motion to approve the minutes? Is there any questions or concerns on the minutes that were submitted? Joe?
I don't remember.
I have one correction that does not require a vote, which is I've corrected Barbara's name in the minutes.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Just an extra B. It's okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Any other concerns about the minutes? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is David.
I
I
make
make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Barbara.
Oh.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed to the minutes, please say nay.
I
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to old business. Barbara, would you like to give us the poet laureate update?
Sure. Just a couple of brief mentions but from Maggie regarding her events this month. Last Sunday, October 16th, she gave a reading at Quiet Waters Park, Art in the Park. And then later that same evening, she hosted a night of poetry, adult open mic night at Art Farm. And she doesn't have anything planned for the next couple of months, but I know she's in contact with a couple of people to do some collaboration. And once she finalizes that, she'll let me know. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Barbara. For gallery updates, Audrey Lee will be coming and presenting in December for the next 6 months. So it'll be January through June gallery displays for Pip Moyer and for City Hall for us to review and approve. And moving forward, she'll try to do it every 6 months. So we'll do January through June, and then probably like March or April, she'll come again and present for the remaining of the year for July through December. So and that's all we have on that right now. Proposed mural updates. I don't have any new proposed murals or discussions. We can jump down to grant updates. Joe, do we have anything? And then I think Lynn is gonna hook up with you on grants too.
Yeah. Indirectly, yes. So I think I mentioned that I have to the new parts of my job, I have some grants that I'm now linked through the State Arts Council. And one of them is a guy who has administered several of their public art grants. And so I actually have an appointment to talk to him about kind of public art specifically stuff related to potentially our circle project. So it's just a new contact, and it's specific. The stuff that he's involved in is very much related to what we're about to do. So I just kind of want to talk to him as a resource, see what he has to say, see if he can point me in some other directions.
Fabulous. Thank you, Joe. And we'll have to get you and Lynn set up for a subcommittee meeting. Go ahead, Lynn.
Cynthia had her hand up before me, so I don't know whether she.
Cynthia, do you still need your hand up?
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, okay. This is back to the last item on under old business. As you all have read the emails, the proposed beaches project, photo mural project with Art at Large. Art at Large is our oldest partner as a commission. And in the early 2000s, around the turn of the century, Art Walk and Art at Large did many photo murals for the city that are still being appreciated to this day. So the question is, under some of the back and forth, they submitted a scope of work that we approved for 1,500. And they have already completed that scope of work. The scope of work included obtaining from Maryland Archives 4 Thomas Baden photos from the archive of the Thomas Baden collection. That came to around $250, which Art at Large has already paid. Also, the other scope of work that has been already completed is under obligation to be paid. Now, there was some paperwork issues as far as some of the wording in the application that is completed by a contractor that actually installs the wall art, that installs and fabricates the photo murals. So the scope of work was what Art at Large was proposing at the site on Forest Drive next to the Annapolis Middle School. And as you know, children are walking by that site every day, and it's an excellent site. It's historical, and it's out of Ward 1, which currently all of our expenses and venues are in Ward 1. So this was a win-win situation, a venue that was working out, photos that had been selected, and the scope of work has already been completed by the artist. So I think that's why we need to have things on the agenda that are old business, because we do need to take time to discuss them.
Okay. A couple of things on this. So we received 2 invoices from Sally Comport. We did not receive scope of works, and we didn't receive a presentation or a proposal yet for this project. The 2 invoices stated that she was charging us $1,500 for 1 photo, and then additional charge was being made for the other 2 photos. So that was 3 together. However, the vote, which I sent out to everybody in the link via video, the vote was for 3 to 4 photos for $1,500 to be paid to Sally Comport as a scope of work. So I asked Sally Comport to please resubmit an invoice for $1,500 for 3 to 4 photos on the side of the car wash. She didn't do that. She has chosen by email to not be the consultant on this project. She's not an art. She doesn't list herself as an artist. She's a consultant, and she was going to provide a scope of work that would tell us what we would need to do to move forward with this project. That scope of work has not been presented. That scope of work was not sent to us. An invoice, 2 invoices were sent to us. So based on the laws and ethics of this commission, we can't pay for 2 invoices. That's not what we voted for. So the whole thing would have to be backed out and started over. And I, again, extended the invitation to her to be the consultant, to complete the scope of work, to present the scope of work to the commission as a whole, so the commission could then vote and make a decision on whether we move forward with this project. If the commission votes to move forward on this project, they also need to understand that a side contract needs to happen with the owner, Mr. Pettit, of the car wash, because technically in our code, we can't just put city-owned art or art on private buildings, privately owned buildings. So it's a privately owned building. So a whole separate agreement would have to be drawn up. We'd have to approve that. There's steps to this project. We can't just barge right into this project and say, yes, we're going to do this.
Excuse me, let me just give you a little bit of history about this
No,
project.
Cynthia, there was no proposal submitted.
Excuse me.
No scope of work submitted.
She was going to be here at the meeting tonight.
I
and
asked,
she isn't.
but we
Excuse me, don't interrupt me, please.
No, because you interrupted me, ma'am. So I'm sorry. But the scope of work and the proposal needs to be presented to the commission prior to the meeting so everybody can review it and know what's happening. That never happened. That's never been. And a proposal for this work of art was never submitted by anybody. And then Sally responded saying that the only paperwork that I sent her that she could fill out was the W-9 for the payment. She wasn't willing to fill out the work of art. So here we are. We don't have a proposal. We don't have the scope of work. So there isn't anything to present tonight. So we can move on from murals and we can go back to grants.
So I was just going to say to Joe, feel free to include me in that meeting with the person from the State Arts Council if he's willing to do so.
I will. It's a little bit piggybacked on a work conversation, but I'll work out the logistics of that and let you know.
If it works, that's fine. If not,
Sure.
It's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. That was it. Lowering my hand.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, so I do have some more statements to make because this project goes back 12 years.
The
And it
rule of
was
order, we've already moved on. Let's go to public outreach updates.
No, I'm
please.
sorry.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've already moved on. We don't have a proposal. We don't
Well-
have the scope of work. We don't have any, we can talk about this during open discussion. This is not in the agenda. It's not in the agenda for here. Let's move on, please, because we would love to have Lori be able to present.
okay, so we'll have a discussion about this because you made some statements that need to be corrected. And so for the record, we need to know the historical basis of this and what had been previously approved by the commission. I think that's important.
There is no,
And
I will state-
we're talking about a nationally known artist and writer. So to say that Sally Wern-Comport is not an artist.
She's not
I
listed
mean-
on this project as an artist. She is listed on this project as a consultant, and she's providing a scope of work.
Well,
She is
she
not
also
procuring, she's not procuring the art. She bought the photos from the archives and she was going to hand them over to us and we were going to get them printed and installed. That's what she said in her emails. She was not making the art for us.
Well,
So we
of
need
course,
to move on, Cynthia.
we-
So
we
call of
know-
order, please, rule of order for this meeting, and then we will go to public outreach updates. Thank you. I've discussed with Visit Annapolis, they're hoping to have our schedule in December for the summer so they can start doing marketing and promotion for it. So I would like to get a group of people together to do our programming for the summer if we could. It always has to be under the majority, so it's not perceived as a separate meeting. But anybody who would like to work on us for programming for the summer, we need to get that put together to give to Visit Annapolis so they can start the marketing and promotions and deciding what magazines and what events that they will help us promote with. There will also be another Art Charrette meeting coming up. I don't have the specific date and time yet, but when I do, I'll share it with everybody. That's for people who don't know what that is. It's when one representative from each art entity within our city and county. It's also open to the county for any county programs that have any sort of art programming in Annapolis. We all meet together and we discuss our upcoming schedules and programming for the next year. Our hopes and aspirations for the city, what we're looking for to bring forth to the future of our art city, how to help promote it better, what programming we might be missing, and how to fill in the gaps for that. So, and that's what I have for public outreach updates right now.
When and where is that Art Charrette going to take place?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the exact date or time or location. And when I do, I will send it out to everybody, but it is invite only, and it generally happens at Maryland Hall. So
And who's issuing the invite?
the Arts Council controls that.
Okay. Good.
Genevieve, do you have a just one quick question? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Am I?
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Okay. Do you have a due date from the from Visit Annapolis on the list of events?
Visit Annapolis Lake stuff as soon as possible. And generally they like to have things like 2 months in advance at least, because most publications go to print a month prior to them coming out. So
Okay. You said December. I just wondered if there was a date certain.
not yet.
No. Okay. Thank you.
No due date yet. Thank you. Cynthia?
Can I just make a suggestion? In previous years, under previous chairs, as far as doing the public outreach meetings and going and meeting with certain individuals or organizations, it was always a rule of thumb that either the chair or the co-chair went to the meetings. I think it's always a good policy to have two people at these meetings, such as the charrette. I mean, not everybody can drop their work at a moment's notice, but I still think, Genevieve, when you meet with a Visit Annapolis and other folks, it may be good if one other person comes along, and so we are all in the loop, rather than trying to update quickly what may have taken place over the last 30 days or longer.
Duly noted, Cynthia. Anybody else on public outreach updates? Okay, we can move on to budget. I didn't get a new budget report this month, but I did send out the brief after going through our budget and line by line item, what was outstanding still. And I sent that out in email. Did anybody have any questions or comments or concerns about what I sent out? So essentially, after we set aside $50,000 for the Westgate Circle, we are, and what is still owed to be paid out from the summer concert series and the other grants that we gave, like to Dinner Under the Stars and First Sundays. The remaining budget that we have roughly is about $50,000 moving forward. And that gets us from now until July 1st. The money, it's not, the money hasn't been pulled aside for the Westgate Circle, but we're just notating that we would like to hold at least an additional $50,000 in case that we need that for matching with any other entities that we apply for money.
So does that mean we no longer have any money available
We have $50,000 from now until July.
that we can spend?
Yes.
Okay.
Barbara?
Thanks, Genevieve. I have a question on the vendor payment sheet that was sent for 2022. A couple, I don't know if they're corrections or if they were just mistyped. For example, Day of the Dead Festival, it's listed as the invoice being $10,000, but we had voted and approved for $10,500.
Okay.
And for the Haunted House by Rodney Barnes, we had approved $2,000 and the invoice says $4,000. Everything else, at least that I looked at, looked good.
Okay. I will make notes of that. Thank you. Anything else?
So I guess
Cynthia?
the question, Jimmy, I mean, I
Oh.
know we need to set aside something. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Didn't raise my hand. I know we needed to set aside something for maintenance. Do we have any idea how many projects we need to maintain?
No, so that's another issue that we're still dealing with. The original contract, which is so old, only stated works of art. And the only additional things that are on file with the city is for the John Paul Jones mural, which was moving it from its original location over to the gate location, and an agreement to keep it there for an additional 3 years, which it's already superseded and it's been there for way longer. Legal department has gone through all of their files. Last year, when we asked Art at Large if they had contracts for the Art Walk installments that are listed on their website for the first series of art walks, they said that they didn't have them handy, that from moving, they feel like they're in boxes somewhere. So, but the city has nothing on file with the legal department outside of the original contract that just said that Art at Large was going to install pieces. And the agreement, legal is still trying to figure out, because most of them had a time frame of like just a couple of years, which all of them have already been up for, way longer, which is great that the art has lasted. So no, at this time, the answer is no, but we're working on it and we're trying to figure it out one way or the other, and trying to find the contracts for each installment, because some of them are on privately owned businesses, which gets, a little more hairy with, the city coming in and trying to remove, replace, update, fix, whatever. So it's going to be a longer process than we thought it was, with us just walking around and evaluating what needed to be fixed. We actually need to find the permission in order to do these things. So they're working on it for us.
Yeah, because that could be a black hole if you think about it.
It already has been,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've been working on it for over a year, and
Okay.
hopefully maybe we can come to some resolution soon.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim.
Do we have a,
Hold on, Jim.
we have
Cynthia
a-
had- Jim, hold on.
Okay.
Cynthia had her hand
Okay.
up.
ahead.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Jim. I'll speak after you.
do we have a list of all of these publicly owned or our art? Do we have any kind of a list?
The
So
only
if
thing we
walk
have,
around-
no, so the only thing the city has to reference is the Art Walk website. There
Wow.
isn't, they haven't been able to find any other contracts outside of the original contract that gave permission to Art Walk to install works of art. That's it. It just says works of art. There's no amount of works. There's no location specified. There's no work specified. So we're trying to work on procuring that list and figuring out how to move forward.
Just one last question. It has been pointed out to this commission, but many of you have seen it, is the photo murals in Stan and Joe's parking lot. They are on private property,
Yeah.
and they were installed, I believe, by Art Walk,
Mhm.
the Art Walk's activity.
Yep.
If we assume that we don't find contracts, do we just let them fall down, or do we ask the
No.
property owner to remove them, or what do
Yeah,
we do?
we'll have to come to some sort of agreement between the city and the private building owners as to what comes next. So I imagine there'll be some more meetings coming up, trying to find a
Okay.
resolution.
Well, I'm offering to help go around the city and look at these items, but it would help if I had a list of what we need to be inspecting. Maybe Brian and I can work on something and come up with some of the pieces and look at them, some of the murals. And, we'll just give you a report as to what we've seen, and at least you have something to go on.
Well, it's actually more than that. So it's figuring out the legalities of which pieces were installed
I realize that.
and who's responsible for it before we
Okay.
can even evaluate.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so, just giving some institutional knowledge here. The inventory that was done for all the Art and Public Places Commission projects is the catalog. If you reference the catalog, it has the dates, the artist, and whether the work of art or was commissioned by the commission. So you can glean a lot from the catalog, which served the purpose as an inventory of all Annapolis public art projects. Number two, a few years back, and I assume David Arthur would remember, I reached out to Stuart White. Stuart White did the mural behind Hillman Garage. He sent an invoice, or he sent an estimate of $5,000 to repair that mural. Also, at that time when I was doing a thorough check of maintenance and what had been done when, Chuck Walsh wrote up a 2-page inventory, once again, of all art walk pieces, the dates that they had been installed. So that email from Chuck Walsh should be in your, David, do you remember that? Do you remember that 2-page email from Chuck that he?
Well, I remember the conversation. That's the email so far back. I don't remember verbatim. I do remember conversations, and I do remember the documentation. We had the guy, like an
Stuart
intern.
White.
Didn't we have an intern coming from like St. John's that came and did some inventory work as well?
Well, he's the one who pulled together all the information for the catalog.
Right.
So yes, he did it. Max Dakin did a beautiful job in getting all of that information, curating all of the work of art in the whole city. Right. So once again, I have in my email the old Chuck Walsh memorandum and the old invoice from Stuart White. But before you do anything, Jim, reference the catalog, and that will give you a lot of good information.
Okay, and if you would forward me that email from Chuck Walsh, that would be helpful too.
And also
and we don't have to discuss this further until we have that, till I get a hold of it and just look at it. And then if you want, Genevieve, I'll just email a brief report.
Well, we actually need all of the information to go to the legal department first. And legal needs to decide what our next actions are, because like I said, there are no contracts on file. Numerous people have asked for them, including Brian, the mayor's office, and they have not been able to procure them. So we need all of this information to go to the legal department first, and then we can decide what is happening next based on their recommendation and what pieces are covered underneath this contract that we have that's outdated and expired. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we'd like to bring forth Lori Stout to discuss adding further to the project that they've been doing on the fence by the middle school. So Lori, thank you for your patience, and please go ahead and present.
So yes, I put in an application yesterday, hopefully addressing all the city's needs, for $800 for the coming fiscal year. I guess July to July, so July 2023 to July 2024. And our project is, I don't know if you all are aware of what it is, but it's engaging the youth of Annapolis in the Annapolis's maritime heritage, which is sort of a passion of mine. And what we try to do is we try to find kids, maybe we can get them on the water. We try to teach them about some of the stuff that in the past and the present of the maritime heritage that we have around here. So the way that we assemble these projects is it's like a foam core with metal on the outside piece of, it starts as a 10x5. And we cut out these shapes and we prep them and we have the kids paint them however they feel like painting them. They might resemble, I mean, right now I have some paddlers and some sailboats and Thomas Point Lighthouse for them to paint. But it takes about $500 for each one of the 5x10 pieces by the time we've cut everything out, provided the paint. We do prep the artwork, we give it to them, and then we coat it, polyurethane coated, and just put it up with grommets and little ties and whatnot. we need to go back each year, refresh the water, which is little strips of sail and whatnot. So we do engage with the youth in Annapolis. I can show you some pictures from this year, I think. And I will share my screen. So this is the overview on our website, South Forest Drive Business District. And these kids were from the Center of Help. Can you guys see that?
Mhm.
If I scroll down. And then we
Yes.
took them on the water and we went paddling one time, which was an awesome day. I also have some pictures from this year. We engaged with ARC of the Chesapeake area. And these, because it was COVID and we couldn't really find any kids to help us. And these are the seahorses that can be found in the Chesapeake Bay. And these are residents of the ARC who painted these. And let's see what else. This is them painting it. So you can see it's just a big piece, lots of paint. We have a good time doing it. And these are the kids from Bay Ridge Gardens, and they put together the last piece that we just installed, which was the lynx that you can see behind it. And they got to have a day on the water on the lynx. And then we took it over to their area, to their rec area after school, and they painted the boat. So it's an ongoing project. It's something that we're trying to engage the youth in, working with the nonprofits around the area. To find the youth. Obviously COVID was a struggle, but yeah, we're just asking for $800. That'll give us, 1.5 installs for another year. And I have been speaking with the middle school, which I don't know if any of you have ever tried to experience working with the school system. It's kind of tough to get through the front door. But I am trying to engage with the middle school and maybe the National Honor Society and have them kind of work with the other groups in the school to paint these installations because they all have a stake in it. It's their school. So I guess that's my presentation. And how do I unshare?
Very nice.
Thank you, Laura.
It's a wonderful program.
Excellent.
We love
Yeah.
driving by and seeing all the pieces on there. So thank you so much, Lori, for doing this. Does anybody have any questions for Lori?
Yes, I do. Just a quick question. Okay, Jim.
Now, we're going to receive a proposal from her? Or one of the written forms? Is that what we're going to get?
Cynthia sent that out to everybody this week.
Okay. I haven't gotten it, but okay.
And just a question, Lori. So who chooses the designs that you paint on the fence? I live right down the street from there, so I pass it every day. And it's always cool to see new stuff come up. Just curious, who decides which images go on the fence?
It's a good one.
Let's see, the first one was St. Anne's School, and it was a capstone project for an 8th grader. And she picked the crabs that are up there.
Cool.
The second one, I gathered some kids that had gone to CRAB, Chesapeake Region Accessible Boating. And so they were up at Sandy Point State Park and they sailed around the lighthouse, the Sandy Point Lighthouse. So we picked the Sandy Point Lighthouse for what they did. The Center of Help, they did the Osprey and they wanted to go out and check out Osprey. So they said, oh yeah, we'd like to do Osprey. So they kind of picked it. Some of the cases, I've had an artist come to me with some pieces of artwork as far as the boats go. And I'm a graphic mechanic by trade. So I was like, okay, well, we can make these boats. We have taken some kids out on the Wilma Lee. And so we do have the skipjack to represent their outing. So it's kind of a combination of, I'm very interested in the maritime heritage here. And also how can we expose these kids to something that's kind of similar.
Oh, cool. All right, well, awesome. Yeah, it's always cool to see new stuff when I drive by. So well done.
My goal is to have the lighthouse from Sandy Point at one end and Thomas Point at the other end, and then just kind of
Fill in the blanks.
everything
Cool.
in between.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Very cool. Anybody else? Okay, Jim, I did just resend the email to you and her application is on there. So if you could review
Great.
it.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think the only thing I didn't fill in was which ward, because I know on SOFA we're like in 4 wards, and I'm like, "Ooh." I don't know
You have to
which
look at the
one it
map.
is.
What is the
And
good
plus-
for?
And plus they're starting to redraw the map. So,
Well, and that's
Okay,
right
so
on
it sits somewhere there.
the actual fence is probably right on the line between
yeah.
6 and.
Is it on?
I guess
Would the
that's
fence be considered
5.
county property because of the school, or is it?
I used
think
to
it's
live there.
considered-
No, but it doesn't matter where there's county, it's still in the
Right.
city. It would still be an award, but
Right.
I know that the, the ward boundaries go right along that sidewalk right there.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
Comes out
So it's
around
probably-
Annapolis
it's probably on the
Overlook
border
and
of-
then down.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
it's on the border of 6 and maybe 4. So,
I left that blank. I'll let you guys figure that one.
That's okay. That's okay.
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'll check with somebody and
Yeah. We can fill that part in for you. It's okay. Thank you though,
Okay,
Lori.
thank you.
You're welcome. We'll send you a notice of decision after we vote.
Okay,
Thanks.
so I'll see you guys.
Bye, Lori. Yes, you're free to go. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
have a good meeting.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lori. We
Bye.
appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you,
Nice
Cynthia.
presentation.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, any further discussion about Lori's project?
Wow, I'd like to move that we approve it.
Okay.
It's a very nice,
Is-
it's a very nice project. And
If there
it
isn't
kind of
discussion, then
moves-
we can take your motion, Jim, and we can make a second.
A second.
Thank you, David. All those in favor of approving Lori Stout's ask of $800 for a grant for the
Do we have to do a
fence.
roll call?
Well, yeah, just a second.
Okay, just curious. All right.
All those in favor, please say aye. Joe, do a roll call vote, please.
Genevieve,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Joe, I, Jim,
Aye,
Barbara,
Aye.
Krissa,
Aye.
Cynthia,
Aye.
and Lynn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous.
Fabulous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, now, since we don't have any new business, we will just skip over to open discussion. Do we have any items for open discussion?
I
Barbara?
would just like,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, Jim. Barbara raised her hand.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. Just a quick question, following up the SOFO project. I know that we've already funded for the crabs and the other items that are already displayed. Is there anything that Lori has mentioned in the past or going forward that we should consider in terms of maintaining those pieces of art on the fence?
So the way that the grant works is that we're not responsible for the maintenance or care of it. So it's whoever owns the fence and procures the art. Yeah. So we don't have a contract with them because it's not our property. So it's not city property. So
Okay.
we're just help funding the art.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. Sorry, Jim was next and then Cynthia.
I just would like to reiterate that we use the word unfinished business and not old business. And one question I have, when people submit proposals or applications, I don't know what you want to call them, do we receive those? How do we receive those as members of the commission so that we can look at them and see them prior to a to a commission meeting?
They're all sent to you by email.
Really?
Yeah, because Cynthia sent that out to all of us earlier this week for the
Check your
SOFO.
spam filter there, Jim.
Yeah, might want to
You
double
were-
check your emails.
You
I
were-
got it. I got it.
Yeah, you
I
were
got
on
it
the
too.
list, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even
I
double
got
checked the email
I got
to make
Cynthia's
sure everybody
thing.
was on there.
Is that the only thing that we got? Is Cynthia's?
Yes, that's the only proposal that was submitted.
Okay, I
this
got
week.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had a
Okay.
process. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Okay, Cynthia?
Yes, to clarify Barbara's question, Barbara, okay, Lori, recently, as you know, added a new piece that the students had done, and they have a regular maintenance day. They get a group together and they do touch-ups on the fence artwork. So they are aware, of the maintenance, and they are doing regular sort of community gathering to update the fence. So they're aware that they're maintaining it.
Great. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Joe, would you like to discuss why we call it old business and new business based on the rules for creating the
Sure.
agenda?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, actually. It's standardized. The city has standardized the format and the language and the content of what appears on the agenda. So this is like a bureaucratic systemization. So it is not up to our discretion to change that language. It's
Okay.
as simple as that, or to itemize in places that the agenda doesn't call for.
Any other questions or comments on the agenda and minutes and the format of them? Okay.
Well, I do want to
okay.
add that, okay, I was able to find the memorandum from Chuck Walsh, and I just sent it out. So it's a 2-page memorandum that has a lot of information that you were trying to seek out. Also, the Stuart White estimate of work to repair his should also be archived. If we do have an archive, it perhaps would be a good place to put these documents.
Okay. Did you send it out to AIPPC as a whole?
I'm doing so now, but it was previously sent out. It was sent out back, gosh, well, you'll see the date of the memorandum, but everyone should have it in their email archive.
Well, maybe for those who were on the commission at the time, sure. But some of us are like, Jim and Lynn and are newer, so they might not have that. So,
I
and
just
then
received
also,
one.
yeah, and also, we'll make sure that Ashley has a record of it. So if you just reply all or copy the email addresses when I send them out, that goes to everybody, goes to our liaisons at Parks and Rec and the mayor's office and Ashley. As well as Larry.
You would also find it within the minutes because back when Chuck drew up the memorandum and inventory of art walk pieces, that was included in the minutes.
Yeah,
So that's also a good resource to look through previous minutes. It would have been an attachment. And as you know, Tammy Hook used to be our recording secretary, and she was very thorough about items like that.
Yeah. What was the date on that memorandum, Cynthia?
Let me call it up. That's a good question. He's an attorney. I don't think he wrote a date on it.
I don't see a date on it.
So yeah, it's kind of problematic. It's something else that poor Joe, I need to have a meeting with him to tell him all the fun that we get to do. For years, our copies of our minutes and agendas, as well as our yearly reports, physical actual copies were not made and submitted in for file. So that's why they don't have hard copies on file. We do have digital that is on the website that we can access for back copies, but it only goes so far. So we have a little bit of kind of an archival project coming up to try to get us as close to up to date as possible and to have everything on file with the city clerk office. So
Why was that a poor Joe?
because you're a secretary, you get to help in
That's
all
fine.
your spare time. Thank you.
That's fine. I deal with archives for a living, so
I love it. You're the
those
perfect
kinds of-
person.
those kinds of gaps and holes in archives are not unusual.
No, they're not. Nope. No, this is not an unusual thing, but we'll
Yeah.
get us caught up. So
Okay, sure thing.
thank you. Cynthia?
Yes, I found the date. Okay, that memorandum was drawn up on the March 28th, 2019. It was sent to Brian, Office of the Mayor, to David, Gerald, Lisa, and I believe Ashley, as well as members of the commission. And you can view that in your old email for 2019.
Okay, thank you. But you did resend it though, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, and comments for open discussion?
I just wanted to make sure that folks get an invitation to a networking meeting that the Arts District in Annapolis is sponsoring at Ram's Head on Friday, the 27th. And it'll be from about 5 to 7. And there'll be light hors d'oeuvres and beverages and whatever. And we hope members of the commission will come out. There's approximately 40 people attending, and Brian's going to be there. So it'll be a nice time to just meet people and get to know folks and hopefully improve our presence in the community.
That's
It's
Thursday.
Thursday,
right,
the
Jim?
27th.
Okay, yeah.
Thursday,
You said
I'm sorry.
Friday. It's
Okay.
Thursday,
I'm
the
Thursday.
27th.
Sorry.
I hope you all
Thursday.
will come. It will be
Cool.
great to have all the board members there.
Be good. It should be in everybody's email.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think both you and I sent it out. So
Good.
Cynthia, your hand is still up. Did you have something else?
Yes, okay. There was a idea or proposal that came up to have some artwork on the side of the Hillman garage. And I think in previous days, we discussed having a corporate contribution for public art within the city. So it is something that I think we not only have the Westgate Circle project, but we have the Susan Campbell City Park, the city dock renovation art there, also the beaches, the new city park. So we have quite a few large ticket items that we need to start to discuss and sort of hammer out, because these are on the horizon, but now is definitely the time to start initiating the conversation. Even though the Hillman garage is still under construction, the public art should be part of the the plan from the very beginning, as well as the city dock renovations. So I know we have a certain amount, 35% of one annual budget set aside for this Westgate Circle project, but a lot of these other items are big ticket items. So I think, as far as the budget, I think we need to have more, maybe even a separate meeting, a working session to discuss the budget, because I think it's so early in the fiscal year that we are already down to $50,000 that we've spent well over, I guess, 150,000 this early in the 2023 fiscal year. So I think it would be also helpful to have a pie chart. I've done statistics for many years, and I find pie charts very helpful. The percentage of money going toward events has increased over the years, so that a lot of our funds are going toward events rather than actual permanent public art. So I think, that should be reviewed, because initially we were only doing projects like the Art Walk projects and the Westgate Circle project, and putting out the RFP for these projects, does take up a lot of time. But now our 2023 budget, quite a percentage of the piece of the pie has been eaten up with events rather than on permanent projects. It's something to think about, something to discuss. Also, I think it would be helpful for the aldermen, the city council, to know that we draw up a pie chart, and they do want to know what percentage of the funds are going into the wards, because for equity's sake, we want to make sure that the wards are being given a share, a proportion of our over $200,000 budget now. So that may be helpful if somebody could, put together those pie charts. Then we could share it with the city council when the time comes, maybe in the final report or something.
Well,
That was
since
a
you've done
criticism.
statistics, Cynthia,
Kwan
that sounds like an
made.
amazing job for you. Please put together that pie chart, and I'd love to see it presented at the next meeting. I'd also like to just make one statement that we have not spent $150,000, that we have $50,000 left to spend, and we're holding $50,000 on the side. So that's $100,000. So it's been close to $100,000 that we've spent. There is some spare change in there that's not exact. We left a little buffer zone just in case something came up, or, sometimes in bookkeeping, there's an outstanding invoice that wasn't caught or wherever. So that's not down to the penny.
And then we put away the money for the summer programming too, didn't we?
Yeah, and it also allocated about $25,000
Right.
for the summer program. So it's not all spent. It's not all spent. It's not all gone. We haven't spent $150,000, and that's outlined in my email that I sent.
But what percentage are we also setting aside for maintenance? I think we need to decide on a percentage of our annual costs, that we set aside for maintenance.
Yeah, but it also depends on what we actually are held accountable for maintenance at this point, because most of those art pieces have expired the time that they were supposed to be displayed. So we need to go through and figure that out. We have to base it off of the original contracts, the contract, I should say, that we have. The memorandums that you just sent, legal has to go through that. And then we have to have separate meetings with all the private building owners and figure out what is remaining up, what the private building owners want to be taken down, if the pieces are in good condition, and where we can reinstall them, hopefully, because I would rather recycle the art than not be able to use it again. So there's a lot coming up for that I just don't think we have any idea right now as far as what maintenance costs would be. We can try to allocate some sort of amount, and we can definitely put it on the agenda to talk about it during budget next meeting. That way we can have your pie charts and the statistics put together, and we can all sit down and review that. And I think that's probably how we need to go forward, because we definitely need legal to go over these memorandums that you just sent so they can give us some sort of direction on where we're moving forward with.
Okay, first of all, I'm extremely busy, way too busy to be putting together the data for you. I think perhaps the folks, Nicole in the finance office used to be really, really helpful in that regard. I'm sure there's somebody who might be able to do that for the commission. But
Is that all, Cynthia?
I think we
Anybody
lost.
else? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, the amount that has been set aside for maintenance in our city code, it has wording, okay? The wording says that we are responsible for maintaining the public art that has been commissioned.
Right, but there's no
So, I mean, the
percentage
city
allocated
code,
to it. Yeah.
no, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that there is any percentage allocated. So once again, it's part of our city code that maintenance, we are obligated to maintain the public art that we commission.
But it's
So-
it's also up to us to decide if it's not maintainable and be removable too as well. And it also
Well-
depends on what the original contracts were, because a lot of them
Kind of
have
is, it kind of
dates.
is.
lot of them have a
Otherwise, you're gonna have
date.
a shabby bunch of art around town.
A lot of them have a date of how long they can be exhibited. And that's what happened with the Westgate Circle, is there was an expiration date on it, even though we kept it up and we had it remain for years and years afterwards. But when the termites were eating it, the artist came and claimed it. So these are the discussions that we have to have based on each piece of art moving forward.
Yeah, this is Krista. I just wanted to say thank you for that because, you know, with my background in conservation, I just think every time that we approve any artwork, I know I've brought this up before in meetings, anytime we do approve any artwork and we continue to add on to, you know, what we have in the city and all that, we do have to take that into consideration when we're looking at these proposals as to what, you know, costs would be for taking them down, maintenance, and conservation, any conservation needs that the piece might have. So that's all I want to say. So thanks for that, Genevieve.
Thank you, Krista. Brian?
I was at the council meetings when the art walk, all the art for art walk, the 6 locations, they were limited to 3 years. So they were to have come down in 2010. We have left them up 12 more years and they're still looking great. We can move some of them, but some of them are going to need to be taken down.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And that's what we're working on now with legal and then visiting each piece and figuring out which ones need to be removed, which ones can be repaired and then reinstalled somewhere else, or, you know, there's a lot of work with this coming up. So
There's something else I'd like to bring up. If it's okay, we can table it for another time if it's not okay. And that is that I was downtown just kind of looking at some different things, some murals, that kind of thing. And one of the things I noticed was at nighttime, some of the murals are just not shown off at all. And I know from visiting other cities that when murals are created in such a way that the buildings commit to doing some lighting installations in addition to the mural, it just, the community benefits, the artists benefit, all of us benefit. And the other night, I happened to be downtown and I walked up to see the Cassidy mural, which I know was done by, or primarily in the Stan and Joe's parking lot and all of that. But that was one that just sort of stood out to me that, you know, we have Art in Public Places murals that we've collaborated on as well. that I think this could apply to. And I just kind of wondered if there were any, businesses or electricians in the area that would want to collaborate with some of the buildings and some of the artists in order to install some lighting for some of the artwork that we have where it's accessible. I mean, I realize that in some places there isn't the outlets or the electricity orientation to be able to do that. But I thought that was something I wanted to kind of bring up and see what anybody had any thoughts about, because I do think they need to be lit up when they can be.
Yeah, that is something that we could take into consideration with the proposals. That would probably fall under display and how they're going to be lit. When they're on private buildings, like, that mural in particular you're discussing is on a private building. So that would have to be in partnership with the building owner if they're willing to, install lighting for that. We're talking about a whole another avenue of invasive stuff on a building. So, but I don't disagree with you that proper lighting on the murals is fantastic. So you can view them at night just as you can during the day. And that reminds me of the conversation about the Hillman Garage. So that was presented to the city to have a conversation with the developers and the construction crew that is developing Hillman Garage. And Department of Public Works made the decision that it's too late in the game to talk about installing art on the Hillman Garage. But it isn't too late to talk about doing the city dock and any other future projects that we have coming up. So we have been included on the planning discussions for the city dock. There hasn't been anything since we had this conversation to make sure that they do include us so we can talk about future art, especially since part of the proposal was having performing art down there and putting up some sort of shed or amphitheater, small, very kind of like People's Park, but maybe a little bit bigger. So when I say amphitheater, everybody thinks like this large amphitheater downtown, but that's not what they're talking about, but just some sort of covered area stage. So I did make a extra request to those in charge of the city dock renovation plans and with the Department of Public Works to please keep us in the loop and part of the discussion for that moving forward. So we can be part of that and we can plan for that, as well as make sure that we have funding to do any ideas that we come up with that and approve to happen down at City Dock.
On that topic, this is Krista. I'd like to just say that I think we do have to be mindful of, how can I put this? Having it done, if we did do a mural or some sort of artwork down there, that it doesn't take away of any types of performance, because having a blank slate or a blank canvas when there's an event really adds to the flavor of whatever the presenter is, or the dancers, or the performers. So yeah, I'd like to have more discussion on that, but I have mixed feelings about doing artwork down there.
Thank you, Krista. Cynthia, your hand is up.
Yes. Okay. Have you been in touch with Lisa Greco about reinstalling the artwork that was along the Annapolis Elementary School fence? It's in storage. They took it down during some of the storm drainage project, and it needs to be reinstalled on the fence. This was an old artwork project.
Yeah,
It was in collaboration with the Annapolis elementary school kids.
it was on the basketball court fence. Yeah, so that we would have to find where they put it in storage, because I'll call David Gerald, Department of Public Works, because I know that's not county property. So I know I know the school doesn't have it. So
Well, Lisa Greco was in charge of that project, so she would probably know.
The pump has not been installed
Yeah.
yet. So the fence they took down to install it, but we do not have a date yet because I don't think all the financing is together. It's millions of dollars. So
There's still construction coming for that area. The construction isn't done. They put the memorial in, but now they still have to put the pump in.
I believe the fence has been put back up.
But
Maybe
they,
just for school.
yeah, it's just for the school to keep the kids in. They still have to do construction there. Anybody else for open discussion? David?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was just highlighting what Chris has said about, I was looking through one of the sample proposals that Joe sent. Thank you. That was kind of insightful. I like some of the things they're doing, but one of the sections in there, I think actually even talks about lighting and considering lighting, depending on where you put your particular piece of work of art, provided, of course, it doesn't interfere with the flow of traffic and blinding people as they drive by, kind of thing. So it's, definitely something that, we can consider as we go through other future art projects. And it's something we may put in, our contracts, depending on where it's going to be. If it's going to be in, like, I think the last one they put up, we're next to the Naval Academy. It's like, it's kind of a dark area back in there. Could use a little bit of lighting as well, but, just something to think about as we go into future art projects.
Yeah, and especially with the Westgate Circle, we need to think about that, because if we want to get electricity over there, that's going to require ripping up streets and running lines.
Yeah.
And that's why they did the neat little solar lights on it originally, so it had some sort of light effect. But we can explore those avenues. I mean, maybe we could do some solar so we wouldn't have to run electricity over, and we can put some solar panels. It gets plenty of sun all day, honestly. It's right there with some really good exposure. So, but that's things like that we do need to think about with the RFP and putting them in there and stuff. So
yeah, that needs to be stipulated in the RFP so that the artist knows there's not going to be water or necessarily electric.
Right.
And there's a lot of issues with that RFP. I hope we get to review it.
Yeah, and it's also a piece of art that we're not going to actually be able to interact with close up, because it's in the middle of the circle and we're not going to have crosswalks and stuff for access to it. So I'd like to put, some sort of, details over by the Bermuda statue that says what that piece is and why it's there and all that kind of stuff. So they could be over in the park area and read it and look at it. So, but yes, stuff like that definitely has to be defined in the RFP. Moving forward.
The other thing too is I think we have to be really mindful that it is something that doesn't distract from drivers driving, that it's not too distractive. The other night, the subject came up about strobe lighting, and sometimes even when the first responders go by, and if there's a blinking light, or even the Uber cars and things like that, these cars and things that have strobes on them can be very detrimental to seniors when seniors are driving. So I think there's certain things, at night. So I think we have to be really mindful of those sorts of things when we start to, get deeper in and dig down into what we want there, what we want to prove, and that sort of thing. So anyway,
we talk
I just
about
wanted to bring that up because that spot is such a beautiful spot, and it's a prime location. I think it's going to be a jewel for the city. But again, the last thing we want is to have our art piece go up and then have there be several accidents or something, fender benders and things around the circle. So just want us to be careful with that.
Yeah, you got to think about those reflective materials and that sort of stuff, and blinding people depending on the time of day. There's a lot to consider in that. So, but thanks, Joe, for sending that out. There's some pretty cool ideas in that one proposal you set out that I think you should definitely consider.
And just to jump in real quick, I feel like what Chris is saying is kind of a heads up for us in the kind of public review to make sure that public safety folks, cities, from the city are included in that conversation. That we just really invite that type of feedback as the proposals are coming through, or kind of that's, just to really include that as an inherent part of the process, because I don't want to be surprised, and I don't want them to feel later on like, we've created some kind of public hazard. So this is just giving me idea. This is just giving me ideas about,
that's a good idea.
Who to talk to and at what point in the process.
Joe and Jim and Chrissa, part of the process is that the Department of Public Works reviews the project, the one that will be decided on. So the Department of Public Works is going to make their review and write a written comment about, how they feel about the public safety issues. They'll be the ones who will be giving that expertise, not the selection committee or our commission. The Department of Public Works will be doing that.
We might even want to think about talking to places like the Department of Transportation in DC, where they have experience doing circles like this with statues and monuments and memorials in them. But, also State Highway, they have a lot of experience now building circles all over the state. And so there's a lot of resources out there, but I'm hopeful that, they'll be in some way involved in the review.
That will be the responsibility of so it goes through all the city, the proposal will go through city departments, and the city departments will determine whether or not they need expertise from outside the city to make sure that it meets all the city requirements. But it's going to have to meet all the city code. And Brian, have they filled that traffic engineer vacancy yet? Do you know?
No.
No. Okay. But there are
They've been trying for 10 years to fill that position. They haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, there are engineers in the Department of Public Works that are completely qualified to make those determinations. So it will
I have one
trust
question.
me, it'll go through the city agencies.
I have one question, and that is, in the meantime, does the city have any plans to perhaps bring some of the holiday lighting to that circle and maybe put in some sort of solar lit holiday tree, or maybe a boat that's all lit up with holiday lights or something like that on the circle, just to have something lit up there and festive as we get closer to the holidays?
Distraction. I don't know.
The big
Not that I know of, but
it's hard enough getting to that circle without it. I mean, let alone you put a tree in the middle of that's lights and people
you can talk to the arts district. Maybe they want to do something, huh, Jim?
Maybe I'll put a note out into Lonnie. I'll reach out to Lonnie and see if she has any ideas. But we have the tree that's down in the center of town, which is lovely, and that's all lit up. So if we could have something, subtly done that that would
Chris,
be nice for
bring
the
it up
holidays.
at the happy hour on Thursday.
Yeah, well, my schedule is such that if they could make the event till 8:00, that would be great. I will probably slide in on the last part of that, but I'll talk with you offline after the meeting. Or tomorrow, we can touch base about it.
Anybody else for open discussion?
Just one last thing on the RFP to kind of synthesize, I think, a lot of these comments. I do think there is ways that this is why I've been kind of looking around for RFPs and trying to collect RFPs from other places that have projects somewhat similar, just to look at some of the language that they build into the proposal, sort of so that in the design phase, it doesn't have to be the city that tells them no, or kind of, that review process. So that is partly why I'm just gathering that information about similar types of projects, because I think it can really help us refine some of the language that we might put out there, based on the experience
100%.
that have done it.
Yeah, 100%. From an art director's perspective, you always want to know what the scope is of the project, what the limitations are. So yeah, spot on. That's why I brought it up, and I'm so glad that you're on board with that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I had just today, I found I got one from the city of Napa, and it literally says in it as a specification, no wine or grape themes
Yeah, love that. Love that.
It's like, wow. So we can
So
just
no
say
large
what-
crabs on Westgate,
Yeah,
you know?
no large
No,
crabs.
no
Absolutely.
wildfire themes either.
Yeah.
No.
So it was really
Cool
funny
part
to
about
see
that
that
is in the
level of
beginning,
I
that
just-
level of specificity was very funny to me.
Yeah.
No wine, no grapes.
No wine, no grapes. Yeah, we
And they
lost
do
a
give
theater
from the
in
beginning.
Napa. That's not good.
One
Yeah.
more observation. This project at Westgate Circle, they're talking about using bronze or whatever, but if you're going to hire, or if we're going to propose and get a quality project or quality project at that circle, $50,000 is nothing in that world.
It's gonna be 300 or
bronze-
400,000, Jim.
Yeah,
Bronze-
that's just our contribution. That's,
Okay.
and it's to be matched.
So is the city committing to funding the rest of it? Because it may be $200,000.
Right, was that out
We don't
loud?
know.
No,
I think
No.
the idea was that we would seek grant funding for
yes,
it.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
We would
from
ask the
city
state
bill.
and the county
Right.
as well. And then I was informed that there may be a private donor who is greatly interested in giving funds as well. So
So
I
there
don't
may
have a
be-
name. I'm not
there may even be
withholding
some
anything, and
federal
I don't have an
funds.
amount, but I was just told that there could be some private donor sponsorship as well.
Well, I'm sure we could get a Christmas tree up there for half the price.
Okay, Chris, well, you can call down to City Hall. We'll move it forward.
Sorry, I'm getting a little punchy.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I get what you're saying, definitely. Yeah. And I've even even if we could plant a tree there temporarily or something, I don't know, but yes, I get it. So
That was Jim Urban's original design idea, was to plant a tree in the middle of it.
it'd be really
would've
cool
been-
if it had like an
would've been a
old
tree by
oak.
now.
Yeah. But, yeah. Cynthia, your hand is up.
Yes, I'm sending, I found the Stuart White, estimate from, that was in March of, 2019 also. He's in Baltimore now, but he drew up a, estimate of the cost for the mural behind Hilma Garage. So once again, this project, that, Sally had taken time along with Lindsay, and Deanie Henson had all marked off on their calendar to attend the meeting tonight to discuss the proposal. And Sally asked that you give her a call or stop by her studio, that she could, discuss with you some of the issues that she had with the paperwork, the application process. And this is a very viable project, low cost and at an excellent location. And I just want to say that as a longstanding member of the arts community, I think, she deserves our thanks for her time and efforts, and that she has already put a lot of time, effort, and expense toward this project that appears now to have fallen through. So I think that, we need to maybe revisit this, because it is not in any means just that she would not be paid a $1,500 amount that we have already agreed to pay her. And I would go back to the early days of when this project was initiated and when it was voted on. And this, goes back many, many years. We're talking 12 to 15 years ago. So I think, using our institutional knowledge on this project, with all of the work over the years, when Ashley Leonard and the giant corporation Ahold, when the initial project fell through because of the indemnification issues, once again, we've reached the stalemate along similar lines in the application process, probably along the indemnification. So I think there were some misunderstandings on the part of the chair, perhaps, but Sally did ask you to call her or to stop by the studio so it could be ironed out. So I think, that the fact that this issue has culminated in your statement that, she would not be paid for the work that she's already
I didn't make that
accomplished.
statement. I did not make that statement that she would not be paid for. So let's back up a little bit. She said she was in Baltimore all this week, so I couldn't stop by the studio. Secondly, she asked for me to call and make the phone call, but at this point, it's not a decision for me to make. It's a decision for all of the commission to make after the scope and the proposal have been presented to the commission. We have neither of them. Neither a proposal or the full scope of work was sent to us prior to this meeting.
Well, you have some paperwork. Can you
I
go
have
ahead
two
and share your
invoices.
screen?
Two
Okay, why don't
invoices.
you go ahead and share that? Why don't
There
you
are two-
share your screen?
They've already been shared with everybody via email.
I don't know, they haven't.
There's two invoices and they were sent out to everybody. And we asked for them to be fixed to be reflective of the email that I sent out. The meeting that we had in March states that it was supposed to be an invoice of $1,500 for a scope of work for 3 to 4 murals placed on the car wash. That is not that is not what we received. We received 2 separate invoices for 2 separate amounts. One was for 1 mural, another was for 2 additional murals. We can't pay that invoice. Additionally, we can't pay an invoice for something we haven't received yet. We haven't received a scope of work yet. We haven't been told the sizes, the placement, and all that stuff for us to move forward with a vote to decide. And we also have not been told how much it's going to cost to print each one. You just said it's a low cost project, but we have no idea what this project's going to cost. And generally in past projects, each print off of a mural has been $10,000 each. So it's not really a low cost project. If we're doing 4 pieces, it's going to be about $4,000 if we're going to guess. But because we don't have those numbers in front of us, we don't have a proposal for a work of art submitted to us for this project. Because if we did, we would have a lot of these questions answered already, and we don't. And the scope of work has not been delivered, and that she did not come with a scope of work to present it either. So that's where we are. And
Okay.
I told her that she's still more than welcome to finish the scope of work, send it to us, present it, and then the commission decides whether we move forward or we don't move forward with this project. If we choose to move forward with this project, a separate agreement has to be drafted because it's private property. And these pieces are intended to be owned by the city and later moved to a park that hasn't even begun to be developed or designed yet. So we don't know how long that these pieces are going to be on the car wash. There's a lot of things. We can't just put the cart in front of the bull here. We have to go step by step with this. And nobody told her that she won't be paid. Nobody told her she couldn't come and present the scope of work. I invited her to. I asked her 3 times to please tell me when the scope of work would be done so we could schedule her to present.
Okay. Initially, the project was for 1 photo mural, and as everybody recalls, it's
on Giant many years ago. And that is no longer valid. That is not, there was no contract signed for that. That whole project is null and void. So we have to start all over again, brand new.
What I'm saying is the initial photo mural was the 4 young women in front of Hoppy Adams' car. And as you know, Deanie Henson, executive director of the Hoppy Adams Foundation, and Vince Leggett of Blacks of the Chesapeake are very interested and are collaborators and and of course, Deanie has done a lot of work for this project. So when Max Pettit, who owns the car wash on Forest Drive, who is a member of SOFO, approached Lori Stout to say that he would like some art on the side of his building, and he said he would like up to 4 because it's such a large building. So that's how it went from 1 photo mural to 3 photo murals. So it has evolved as a project. And obviously with the beaches, the new site of Elktonia Carr Sparrows Beach, that will be a park one day. And as I say, this material stands a test of time and is very durable. It's a fabric material that was that the farmer's market mural was made of and lasted 15 years. So once again, Lindsay sent something to you, but I never received a copy of their project scope of work and proposal.
It wasn't a proposal and it wasn't a scope of work.
They
It was
haven't sent
separate.
it yet.
It was, yeah, they haven't sent the proposal or the scope of work yet, Cynthia. They only sent 2 invoices and both invoices are incorrect. They need to resend an invoice for what we voted on. She needs to do the scope of work. She needs to present it. And the proposal also needs to be presented. The work of art application needs to be filled out. And if it's Deanie who's doing it, then Deanie Henson needs to do it. If she's in charge of this, if she's the lead on this project, we need a proposal and it needs to come to us so we can review it and we can then put it up for vote in front of the commission. We can't just do this based off of 2 invoices. That's
well,
not
like I
how it
say,
works.
the invoice that was presented, the original invoice was for the 15,000. Okay, 1,500. When the 3 other photo murals were selected from the Maryland Archives, well, that is a separate piece of this
But that can't
project.
be, but that can't be because the vote that you brought to the table for us to vote on was $1,500 for a scope of work for 3 to 4 murals. I sent out the link to the meeting. Everybody can watch the meeting again. They can read the notes and the minutes and everything's in the email. The invoice needs to be reflective of $1,500 for 3 to 4 murals on the side. That's just what we need to move forward. She needs to send that as well as doing the scope of work, and a proposal needs to be submitted. The work of art application needs to be filled out, and all of that needs to come to us. If it comes to us, we can put them on the calendar for November and they can present it and we can look at it and we can discuss it and we can see if it's a viable project to move forward. If the commission votes to move forward with it, a separate agreement needs to be drafted with Mr. Pettit explaining who's responsible for it, who does the maintenance, who owns it, how long it's going to be there. All of these questions still need to be answered.
They are aware of that. They're professionals, and I am aware of that. We are all aware of what it takes for art, public art on a private building. The point is that you and Sally went to look at the Federal House as a proposed site of this photo mural. So she had done work to scale the photo mural to the Federal House.
No, I never got a scope of work from that either, because we were told by the community that they didn't want it there. There was a side meeting with Senator Elfreth, Carl Snowden, and Janice Hayes Williams, in which they told us they did not want the mural there. So that ended. It was
my understanding that she had already done work for the Federal House building site.
Well, if she did, she never shared it with us, Cynthia.
No, she didn't. It was never sent. She just attended a meeting with the manager, myself, my husband was there as well. And the day manager was there too for the Federal House, but that was it. So please, if we want to move forward with this project, please have them fill out the work of our application, submit a proposal, and fix the invoice, and we can move on. I think at this time, we need to table the conversation because that's where we're at in order to move forward. We can't continue to discuss it because we don't even have any of the answers to the questions that we have about this project. And if they had submitted the proposal and the scope of work, we would have the answers and we could move forward to some sort of resolution for this, but we can't. Anybody else for open discussion?
Don't dare do it.
I move we adjourn.
A motion on the floor to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. See you next